Democrats did it first. Alternate electors, or as they like to call them now, false electors. They like to charge them with crimes, arrest them, raid their houses, and so on. But this was something that they did first. Look at this document. A copy, you see right here. It says Democratic electors right on the top upper left of the screen. Coming from the state of Hawaii, saying, we, the undersigned electors of President and Vice President of the United States for the respective terms beginning on the 20th day of January, duly appointed, legally appointed, and qualified by the state of Hawaii, we appear and we do certify the following is true, that the person with the number of votes for president and other for vice president is John F. Kennedy of Massachusetts with 3 votes, with the number of votes for each. Kennedy, 3. Here's another one. With the number of persons voted for Lyndon Baines Johnson, 3. Number of votes here for him were 3. And this says, in witness thereof, we have set our hands done, first day, second day, in the year of our Lord, 1,960, signed here by 3 different electors. Look how cool this is. I love these old documents. You see, this was all sent to Washington, December 22nd, 1960. Envelope drafted from Columbian Natural Clasps number 90N. Mailed in from Honolulu, Hawaii, from Jenny Wilson, Delbert Metzger, William H. Heen, signing off on this document. Now, there may be some problems with this document. Here's the story. These are the 1960 Electoral College certificates. This is the document that many Trump electors use and use to justify their claims and their efforts in 2020. Their explanation, the Trump allies rely on 1960 documents. The battle was between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon. So they were voting for Kennedy Johnson as the team Kennedy Johnson president, vice president. Richard Nixon was vice president at the time. By December 1960, it was clear that Kennedy had won. Only Hawaii's result remained in doubt. Nixon had prevailed by just 140 votes, according to the initial results, which were certified by the governor of Hawaii. Nixon won Hawaii. A recount was underway when presidential electors across the nation were required by law to meet and cast their ballots. Nixon's Hawaii electors met and cast their 3 votes in an official ceremony. But nearby, Kennedy's 3 elector nominees gathered and signed their own certificates, delivering them to Washington as though Kennedy had won the state. That's what those documents are. They signed this. At the time they signed this, Kennedy as the president, Johnson as the vice president, certified, but at the time they signed this document, these felonious Democrats were breaching the duly certified votes from the governor of Hawaii. Isn't that interesting? Democrats did it first. The Hawaii episode became an important flashpoint as prosecutors scrutinized whether pro-Trump electors broke any laws. DOJ leaders say the matter's under investigation. The J6 committee's probing the false electors as well. We know they've been arrested in Michigan. While Republicans have used the incident to justify the actions of illegitimate electors, Politico has got these new records. Until now, it's been unclear whether the 1960 case of the Kennedy electors was truly analogous to 2020 Trump. But the unofficial Democratic certificates that were obtained by Politico from the National Archives show 3 Kennedy electors signed documents that are remarkably similar to the false Trump elector certificates. There's precedent for this? The certificates describe the 3 Democrats as duly and legally appointed, qualified members of the Electoral College. The envelope containing the certificates was stamped December 22nd, includes another avowal. We hereby certify that the list of all the votes of the states and of Hawaii given for president are contained herein. The documents do not mention the recount because the documents are contingency documents. You just file them in case the decision goes your way. Instead, the Hawaii Democrats use virtually the same language that here they call them, false Trump electors in 5 states used in their efforts. In those documents, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, the pro-Trump typo activists describe themselves as duly elected and qualified. In other states, Pennsylvania and New Mexico, they submitted alternative elector slates, but included a caveat. Their votes would only be counted if ongoing court battles broke in favor of Trump. So it's even a more specific contingency. Charlie Gerow, a veteran Pennsylvania Republican strategist who signed one of these, said he and other lawyers devised the strategy with the caveat. Says, we put in the contingent language quite bluntly because I and several others in the room were lawyers. We insisted on it. We inserted the language specifically to avoid some of the charges that are coming from the left. They say why Hawaii isn't exactly the same. They say although 3 Democratic electors in Hawaii took the same action, signing false certificates, it does not appear that they got the same scrutiny. Why? Because Hawaii did reverse the state's election. So they did actually flip it. Kennedy prevailed. There was a recount and it flipped. A new governor certified the Kennedy victory, transmitted the new certificates, signed by the same 3 Democrats who falsely claimed to have won 2 weeks earlier. So that's weird. So they filed it just in case something happened, right? So they were on record. They didn't just sit there and say, well, Nixon won. Nixon just won, obviously, because it's all certified and done. The first past the post. They said, nope, we think we won. We're lodging our certificates. And when it got reversed, they just processed it. Same thing that Donald Trump and his team were doing. When Nixon, like Mike Pence, presided over the session, remember, he was vice president, just like Mike Pence was, he acknowledged receiving all 3 sets of certificates, okay? So he acted during the ceremony, which I think is much different than what happened with Mike Pence. So this was even more serious. He got the GOP slate, he got the uncertified Democratic slate, and he got the certified Democratic slate. And his role is to decide what to do with them. He then agreed with the newest one, the Democrats certified by Governor William Quinn. He said, okay, I've got 3 different ones here, just like Mike Pence could have done, and made a decision. And he picked one that he thought was the most legitimate. He said this one should be counted, even though they were certified weeks after the required meeting of the Electoral College. They came later, so they were technically in violation of the law. They came week after the required meeting. He added a caveat. He says, well, look, my decision should not be seen as precedent for the future. So I have some discretion in what to do with these things, just like people were arguing Mike Pence did. The newest slate, Nixon said, the newest one was properly and legally portrays the facts with respect to the electors chosen by the people of Hawaii. Incredible. That's exactly what Trump's argument would have been if the legislatures that were usurped by the executive branches and by the courts when they changed the election rules, thanks to COVID, they could say, we did not want our elections governed this way with all of these extensions of the voting allowances. And this is exactly what they did. They sent in alternate ballots. Nixon decided, I got a couple different slates here, rejected the others, and made his determination. Nobody got charged with felonies for that. One crucial feature of the 1960 episode is that a state court weighed in a week before Nixon oversaw the electoral count vote. In that case brought by a group of Hawaii voters, Judge Jameson agreed that the certified Kennedy electors were legitimate. His judgment was then affirmed by a state sitting governor who certified the slate and then transmitted it to Congress. He also threw out an effort by GOP electors to scrap the entire election because of fraud allegations, which is all okay. Nobody got charged with crimes for any of this, right? Everybody was fighting legally to do it. The ruling wasn't appealed, holds no binding weight, but it's the only legal precedent for this. Notably, Jameson in the case made no reference to the slate of would-be Democratic electors who signed the things just weeks earlier. Didn't even mention those people. Like, they were, according to Fannie Willis and Jack Smith, they were criminal felons at that moment until they weren't because they were right. And it's not clear the existence of that slate made a difference to the outcome. Nixon's passing reference to their certificates reflects that they were received by Congress. Congress got them. But Nixon's decision to obtain unanimous consent to adopt the late arriving certified slate meant Congress never passed judgment on the legitimacy of the unofficial slate. Why would they? It's unofficial. It's not the legitimate slate. So they just decided in their discretion, we're not going to do that. All of that is perfectly allowable within the mechanics of the law. This behavior is now being criminalized. And fortunately, Politico dug up these documents. And we now see in the filings, these people, at the time they signed this, we hereby certify that the list of all the votes of the state of Hawaii given for president and of all the votes given for president are contained herein. And they labeled those as Johnson for vice president and Kennedy for president, even though at this moment, this was not accurate, according to the official people of the state of Hawaii. Nobody got charged with felonies. They all did their due diligence. They were all fighting for an election. But only now, because it's Trump, Does a double standard exist such that Trump gets prosecuted while others do not? So the Democrats did it first. They know they did it. They know this is a double standard, and they just keep motoring forward with it anyways, because that's what they do. They don't want to play fairly in the court of public opinion and just let America vote for the man. They'd rather prosecute him for strategies and for tactics that this country has utilized for decades in order to remove him from the board so they can win.